Lipedema is an inflammatory disease. It makes inflammation and it is made worse by inflammation. The loop. Any way that we can reduce our inflammation is going to be helpful to pain levels, to fluid retention, to symptoms in general. Enter the room omega-3. Seems to me that everybody in the world understands that omega-3s are anti-inflammatory for our body. So let's explore exactly what omega-3 does for our body, what kind we need, where do we get it, all that good stuff. Omega-3 is an essential fatty acid, which means it's essential to our body. We cannot make it inside our body, so we need to get it from our food sources or environmental sources. There are three main types of omega-3. The first one are found in plant sources mainly, and that is ALA. Then we have EPA, and they have very long names, so I'm not going to say them because I will butcher them. Even with my background of study, saying them is a whole nother story. So we'll stick with EPA and DHA. So EPA and DHA is what we get from seafood and fish, for example. Omega-3 actually in our body integrates the membranes of every cell, giving it kind of fluidity around the cells. It is also an anti-inflammatory powerhouse, which is what we're looking at it for, right? We need omega-3s for heart health, for brain health. DHA is highly concentrated in our brain, with up to 25% of the fat in the brain being made of DHA. It's also DHA that's present in our eyes, in our retinal fat. EPA is the part that helps to reduce the body of inflammation and also has shown to improve symptoms of anxiety and depression. So it's a pretty valuable vitamin, mineral, whatever you want to call it, fatty acid in this case, that we need regularly in our diet for us to feel well, for us to lower our inflammation, for everything to function the way it should. There is a little problem though. With most omega-3s come along with omega-6s, and we hear the word omega and we go, that's got to be good for us. So omega-3 and omega-6s, yep, we need them both. However, we need them both at a ratio of 1:1. What are we getting? In this day and age of how we live, convenience foods, all the things, we're actually getting 1 part omega-3, and instead of getting 1 part of omega-6, which is a healthy balance for us, we're getting about 40 parts omega-6, and that is inflammatory to our body. That's the problem we have here with the omegas. Omega-6s, where do they come from? Seed oils. That's kind of the biggest A plus B equals C in this case. This would be how omega-6s have infiltrated our world and our life and our bodies in the way of inflammation, because seed oils are in everything. I have had people write comments saying, oh, enough with the seed oils, there's nothing wrong with them. And I'm like, wow, really? There's not enough evidence for you? There is so much evidence now, and it doesn't matter what camp is talking about it. It doesn't matter whether it's the vegans, the plant-based, pescatarians. Everybody knows now that vegetable oils are loaded with omega-6s, and that's why we're getting 1:40 instead of 1:1 in our bodies. This is a problem. It would be okay if all you're doing is cooking with your omega-6 vegetable oil. That would be fine, but we're not. It's in everything. It's in herbs and spices. It's in every processed food you buy. It's in every cake, cookie, batter, gravy mix. You name it, it's in it. I know, I've looked. Because when I first found this out, when I first understood the depth of it, because we find these things out along the way, but we tend not to sort of soak it in until just one day it suddenly appears to us, right? That's how we absorb information. We absorb what we're meant to absorb when we're ready to absorb it. When I finally dug into omega-6s and vegetable oils, I literally went into my kitchen and looked at the back of everything that I had. My favorite herbs and spices, my favorite sauces, my favorite everything, they all had to go. They all had vegetable oils in them. And it's never the one thing we do. So it's never the going out and having a deep fried spring roll on a Saturday night here in Bangkok at a night market, that would be fine. But when you're having it every day at every meal, if I go and have that spring roll every single meal, every single day, even just once a day, not even every meal, but even just once a day, that will have a knock-on effect of my health. That will drive the lipedema. That will drive inflammation. And in turn, that will drive pain that I don't want. So the omega-6s is a really important thing to nail. And I would encourage you, before you go out and buy some omega-3 capsules, because they're amazing, and yes, they do all the things we want them to do, I would first make sure you have gotten rid of all the vegetable oils, all the seed oils in your kitchen. If you're not doing that, there's not enough omega-3 capsules in the world for you to counteract it. You can't bring your omega-3s up to be 40 and 40 to balance them out. It won't work. You first need to get rid of the omega-6s, which will save you money because you're removing something, right? It's really not hard. Once you get your head around cooking with butter, cooking with ghee, it's just something that becomes normal over time. It's just this convenience thing, and convenience is killing us. I always say it. It's this convenience thing of just giving it a quick drizzle that we're so used to, that we've got to rewire those neural pathways to be, oh no, it's normal to get a little bit of bacon fat. I cook bacon here and I pour the fat into a glass jar, put it in the fridge, and I use that to cook. If I've got that first, that's what I'll use to cook first. And if I don't have that, I'll use butter. Sometimes I'll put a little bit of both because the flavour is really great. But it's just rewiring those neural pathways to understand that, oh, we can do it the old way, like our ancestors did, saving fat from meat and cooking with that. We're just not used to it. That's all it is. Okay, so before you run out and get some supplements, please remove all the omega-6s from your world. Now, you won't be able to completely remove them all because we actually do need a tiny little bit of inflammation in our body, because that's how our body works. When something's injured, broken, diseased, toxic, whatever, the inflammation goes to heal there. But the problem is, for you and I with lipedema, or for anyone with any kind of inflammatory disease like arthritis, thyroid disease, that sort of thing, you've got so much inflammation that your body just doesn't know which part is actually got a problem and which part hasn't. And it's just sending out this, stuff everywhere, these cytokines trying to heal everything. Too much of anything is just as bad as not enough. Okay, so we've got to get this balance. This is one way to do it, is to just remove the excess. If we remove the processed foods, if we remove the refined foods, if we cook from scratch, and if we use butter, ghee, animal fat as our cooking base instead of all the other things, we will go a hugely long way of removing the amount of omega-6s we need to remove from our diet. Once you've done that, by all means, go get yourself some really great omega-3s to give yourself a better boost. Let's look at the best food sources for EPA, DHA, and this is the cold water fish. Which ones are they? If you're like me and you're not a fisherman, my father loves fishing. I just, not for me. Cold water fish. So they are the salmon, the mackerel, the herring, the sardines. Again, all the things that I don't like. So for me, you will never catch me having those foods. I say you'll never catch me, but there's the odd time where I've had canned salmon in a salmon patty or something like that. But from a fresh perspective, not my thing. So I am more likely to find other sources of omega-3s than the cold water fatty fish. But if you are a fish person, 2 portions a week is enough to get you what you need from a daily needs perspective. If you're looking to get the plant version of ALA and omega-3s, then your best options are flax seeds and chia seeds and probably walnuts. Macadamia nuts are also higher in omega-3s than omega-6s, so they're also up there with walnuts in having a better ratio for consumption. In fact, I have a raw sour cream because I did raw for quite some time, thinking that would heal me. It did not. But the raw sour cream I found when I used macadamia nuts instead of cashews, because all the raw cheesecakes and all the raw desserts and all that is based on cashews, which have a flavor. And the cook in me, I was an ex-cook, I figured that macadamia nuts, and also being Queenslander, almost the home of macadamia nuts, I decided the macadamia nut had a better flavor profile to be the base. It kind of doesn't have a flavor, unlike cashews. So when I tried using macadamia nuts instead of cashews in all these raw desserts, they were a winner. So my raw sour cream that I base on macadamia nuts would have been higher in omega-3s, so would have been anti-inflammatory to the body, and much better option than dairy. That's another video coming, because dairy is not recommended for people with lipedema. So they're your plant options for omega-3s. So get yourself some chia puddings, or a great chia pudding recipe. If you need one, hit me up. I've got plenty. And also flax seeds on. I used to put flax seeds ground up every day. You've got to grind them fresh to get the good omega-3s out of them, that I would sprinkle on my purple porridge, my blueberry porridge that I used to eat. All these things I ate for years as a plant-based eater, and now couldn't be more the opposite if I tried. But that's okay. We evolve, we change, we learn, we tweak, and we get better. Now, ALA, just so you know, it has to be converted into EPA and DHA. So it's not a like for like on omega-3s. It doesn't, you can't go, oh, I'll have this or this. The ALA has to be converted into the proper form for us to be able to absorb it. And it's not really efficient. It's quite inefficient. It only changes from 1 to 15%. So you're probably going to need to supplement in another way, unless you eat a lot of chia seeds and a lot of flax seeds, which you might. Another option there would be algae. So eating a lot of algae would be high in omega-3s, and there's algae supplements, there's algae oils out there. So that would be your backup if you think you need more than your chia seeds and your flax seeds and your walnuts, or you may not just eat those things. So maybe algae is an option for you. But on that note, don't go off and get those little nori snack little pieces of seaweed. Why? Because they're loaded in seed oils. They're cooked in sunflower oil. So they'll be higher in omega-6s than they are in omega-3s. This is what I mean about it being in everything. So everything that you pick up and you look at and you go, oh, that'll be healthy, you can't assume. You've got to turn it over and read the ingredients. Just make sure you check that out, because I thought at one point that having the nori and then just putting some tuna in it and things like that was a much easier snack, until I rolled it over. Not so much. So before we go into the doses and the safety of taking omega-3s, let's just dive a little bit deeper into lipedema, and more specific than just inflammation, which is a big one, but that's what we all tend to look at. There are other more specific reasons why omega-3s will help us with lipedema. And one of them is our gut health. You didn't expect me to say that, did you? So to help reduce inflammation, we need a good gut bacteria. Omega-3s help contribute to good gut bacteria. And the other reason we want to increase our gut health is that because our lipedema is often leaky lymphatics, is my understanding, then we often have with it leaky gut. And I know from a thyroid perspective, most thyroid people, the thyroid disease is caused by a leaky gut as well. So I'm going to go ahead and assume, because I've got thyroid disease and I've got lipedema, that I have got leaky lymphatics and I have got leaky gut. So I need to find any way that I can to help heal that. And omega-3 seems to contribute certainly to the leaky gut side of things. Now, where connective tissue is concerned, omega-3s actually has a really nice environment for collagen. It kind of gives it a nice space to be. And it does that by reducing the excess inflammation around it. So any way that we can do that specifically, we should. So omega-3 for the win there. Omega-3s are also crucial for making our cell membranes flexible, And any way that we can do that also in our body is going to be helpful. The bottom line with everything that omega-3 does in the body, it all adds up to lower inflammation, and lower inflammation means less pain, and that's a win for us in the long run. Okay, let's look at dosing. Now, for the average general health and maintenance, you'd be looking at 1,000 milligrams of EPA, DHA a day. But for chronic health symptoms, then a medical dose would be more like 2,000 to 4,000 milligrams a day. So you would look at taking that if you have any kind of inflammatory conditions, chronic conditions, high triglycerides, that kind of thing. If you buy the EPA, DHA versions of supplements instead of just omega-3s on it, there's ratios of one to the other. So your ideal ratio, you're looking at 1.5 to 1. So 1.5 EPA to 1 DHA. That is specific to pain management. If you're looking for mental health benefits, then you're looking at 2 to 1. So 2 parts EPA to 1 part DHA. There's so many ways of tweaking things depending on what exactly we've got going on. But that's why you need to work with somebody. Work with somebody who understands that every person is uniquely different. It doesn't matter if you're all labeled with the same disease, disorder, syndrome, whatever. It doesn't mean everybody needs the same supplementation, the same diet, the same exercise routine. Really important to know that. Warnings on omega-3, it's a blood thinner. So if you're taking omega-3s and you're coming up to a surgery, generally you will get asked about this if you're having surgeries or anything like that. But if you already have issues with blood thinning or bleeding issues, struggle with coagulation, that kind of thing, then omega-3 may not be the right option for you. So just be aware that that can be an issue with taking omega-3s long term in higher amounts. In lower amounts, you may be okay. Again, work with your doctor if you have any of those sorts of issues going on. But for the same reasons, also any cardiac issues, you need to be working closely with your doctor that omega-3 is okay for you. In cardiac issues, high amounts of omega-3 or EPA, DHA has been linked to atrial fibrillation. I can never say that word. So be really aware if you're having irregular heartbeats and that sort of thing. And if you're taking omega-3, you need to tell somebody. Here, I would very definitely work with a practitioner and get a practitioner brand of product, because we're dealing with ocean creatures and mercury levels and things like that. The practitioner brands test for that. They get the lower levels of mercury and the lower levels of things like that. So you kind of want to spring for the better product here. Now, that's why I suggested earlier that you first remove all the omega-6s, because there is no point in having the best quality omega-3 if you are still having processed foods in your house and cooking with oils and that sort of thing. And before you ask me about oils, olive oil is okay. Avocado oil is okay, as long as it's pure. And I read somewhere recently that there are not enough olive trees on the planet to support the amount of olive oils on our grocery store shelves, which means half of them are cut with seed oils to make it cheaper, and they do not have to declare that. So as long as you are buying a really good quality olive oil and you know it's come from Italy and it probably cost you a fortune, then by all means cook with that. But all other oils, no. So at the end of the day, omega-3s, amazing. We need them, but not as much as we need to remove the omega-6s first. So that's the key. That's your action step. You remove the omega-6s first, then you source a really good quality omega-3, and you work with your doctor to make sure that there's no reason why you can't take the omega-3 and find out the therapeutic dose that is good for you. So that may be a doctor, that may be a naturopath, a clinical nutritionist, whoever that is for you. So I hope you've found this interesting. Omega-3s are a tricky thing to get your head around, but it's another piece to our lipedema puzzle, right? So everything that we can learn along the way, one piece may be good for me, one piece may be good for you. We've just got to figure out for ourselves what are the missing pieces for us. That's what we have to do when we're learning about all of these things. That's why I'm doing a whole nutrition series on every vitamin and mineral and lipedema specifically and what they have to do with it, because we've got this for life. So we need to know moving forward what things we can put in our toolbox, what things might help us moving forward, what things do we just need to try. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.